What's good, you two? Mr. Baker here. Today I'm with.
Tyler Unruh.
And what'd you do today, Tyler?
Won a League Cup with Snorlax.
Yeah? Good old trusty Snorlax? Any shout outs, anything you want to say before we get into deck profile?
Shout out Area 0 TCG. It's the Raleigh Durham area.
Okay.
TCG group.
So, all right. Any further ado, let's get into it, man.
Yeah. So, like normal, force Snorlax. When he's active, opponent can't retreat. The intent of the deck is to just block with this guy and then mill them out eventually through some means. To Mimikyu to kind of deal with if they overbench any baby Pokemon, or no baby Pokemon. Helps in the ride on matchup. Helps against Raging Bolt. Raging Bolt can't kill a Mimikyu, but you can keep bringing it back up. Takes 3 retreat to retreat it. They eventually kind of run out of energy.
Okay.
One Cornerstone Agapon. This is if they kind of overcommit with abilities on the field. Occasionally you can Accompanying Flute out everything with an ability, and this can kind of just lock the game up if they have no way of picking it up.
Okay.
2 Rotom. Try to start that turn 1 if you can, so you can start drawing with your engine. Usually put some kind of HP modifier on there because 190 is a little bit unfortunate of a number for that every deck can relatively hit right now. Or you can force Steel Stone off of him and see exactly what card you need in a certain scenario.
Okay.
And then for this cup, I thought it was originally going to be best of 3. It ended up being best of 1 in Swiss, so I very quickly cut all of my text for Lugia and put in a Comfey, and I'll go ahead and say right now a 1 of Psychic Energy. Oh, sorry. This is just for, this is like Chi-Yu EX that came out a while ago. Chi-Yu was 1 Fire Energy, discard the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck. This is not discard, but this is both players draw 3. So if they start to dig pretty significantly, or we get kind of towards the end game and I need to accelerate a little bit faster and they're stuck, I can typically just make them deck out by drawing 3 because I typically have infinite recursion.
Solid. Pretty sneaky.
Yeah. And then for supporters, we have 106 Machinations.
That's a good card. Just got cooked by it in the final.
Eventually they're going to build up a huge hand from just drawing and passing, hopefully waiting to get down to 0 cards, and then Iono. This makes it to where they lose almost all of their hand except for 3. The Iono honestly they can't play it anymore a lot of the time because they'll just end up losing the game themselves if they draw so many prizes. 1 Iono.
Okay.
I usually don't play this in best of 3 because it's kind of not necessary. It's really only good in the mirror because if you're in the mirror, it kind of just becomes a race of Xerosic and Iono because it's whoever basically can Xerosic them down to 3 first and then Iono them to draw the other 3 will typically win the game.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's good logic.
Erica's makes them reveal their hands, gust up a basic that they find there into the active. It's pretty helpful after they Turo or Penny up something on the field that I want to have trapped and they don't do anything to actually discard it. If I have Erica's available pretty quickly, I can just bring it back to the active immediately and typically get it stuck. 2 Silene and 1 Team Yellow's Cheer. This is basically the recursion engine. This keeps me from decking out. I mean, statistically, it's possible for me to deck out eventually if I hit a ton of tails on Silene in a row, but it's pretty unlikely. 4 copies of Penny. Penny is,
Penny is Penny.
An insane card in this deck. Everything's a basic. Everything can be picked up. You get your tools back. Just when they put all the effort into almost killing something, pick it back up. They can do it again. 2 copies of Misfortune Sisters.
It's a good card.
Usually pretty good against most matchups. You try to hit their, Night Stretchers, their Super Odds, things like that, before they get a chance to use them. 1 of Kofu. This is something that I play with a little bit. It's pretty good. I mean, this deck has a little bit of a problem of you end up with a lot of dead cards in your hand that you don't want to do anything with, but you don't really want to Iono because then you're sending a ton more cards down to the bottom of the deck. So Kofu just kind of lets you put 2 irrelevant cards on the bottom of the deck for later that you'll likely shuffle through some means and then draw 4 just to see what you hit.
Yeah, when you play that, I was like, that's a pretty good type.
2 Boss's Orders, still good, just kind of like Countercatcher. Better in the Badoo format too, because you kind of want to just gust around the item lock stuff.
True.
2 Airy for this tournament. Usually I only play 1, but again I cut all my Snorlax stuff because it was best of 1, so I just went up another Airy.
Okay.
4 copies of Arven. Arven is the engine in this deck basically. So many items, so many tools. Go search anything. 2 copies of Artisan to help get Snorlax out under Badoo lock.
Most definitely.
Typically I'm playing 2 Artisan, 3 Temple of Sinnoh to help deal with Lugia, but I cut the 3 Sinnoh today. 2 Night Stretcher instead of a Super Rod. It's pretty much just more convenient to pick Snorlax back up, or in this scenario, it actually helps to get back this Psychic Energy if I needed to discard it. 4 copies of Counter Catcher. Basically, always going to be down on prizes unless we're playing the mirror.
This is true.
There's some stuff where some players can do where they can play around it, where they take prizes by knocking themselves out through other means. Things like Petulant poisoning themselves. Gardevoir can do it if they put a Bravery Charm on the Ralts, put enough damage on it, and then evolve into the Curlia, which turns off the Bravery Charm and then KOs the Curlia, so they can kind of avoid the counter catching getting turned on. 3 copies of Nest Ball to kind of go search out whatever we need at any point in time. 3 copies of Accompanying Flute to forcibly make them bench things that are on the top of their deck. It hit pretty good today. In our finals match, I hit 3. Hit 2 Monkey Dory and a Manaphy off of 1 Accompanying Flute.
That was pretty crack, man.
Bench, which was pretty good.
Yes, sir.
Top 4 match against Lugia. It brought out Iron Hands every time.
Bully and Lugia, huh?
Hisuian Heavy Ball to go search for the one thing that's prized. Typically, it's just like a Snorlax or a Mimikyu. The Ogerpon honestly wasn't relevant today, but it can be useful. 2 Palpad just to kind of help with the recursion engine. A lot of the time, you're just Palpading back in things you think you can draw, or it helps you just not, if you statistically miss on the Silene, Palpad just lets you start to try again.
Okay.
4 copies of Pokegear. Great card. Lets you go see the trainers you want. Lets you shuffle the deck if you need to, if you get Iona, things like that. For tools, 1 Force Seal Stone to go on the Rotom. Surprisingly, don't use that much because in this meta, I feel like you really need an HP modifier on your Rotom. But there's some scenarios where if you feel like you're generally safe, it's pretty good to like aggro out like an Arven to hit an Accompanying Flute, or just an Accompanying Flute directly like I did in one of the matches off the Rotom, just to get an early bench before they manually build up themselves.
Okay.
1 Bravery Charm just kind of helps fix numbers, puts Rotom at 240, puts Snorlax at 200, which isn't as relevant anymore because Dragapult's so prominent, but it helps fix certain things in math. 3 copies of Handheld Fan. A lot of people play only 2 copies of Handheld Fan, or like 1 Bravery Charm. I love Handheld Fan. It's like my favorite card.
It's so aggravating.
Yeah. So it really kind of dismantles the Dragapult deck a bit too, and then like suddenly their 2 Dragapult DXs they have in play have 2 Fire on one and 2 Psychic on another, and they don't know what to do anymore because they can't actually attack with either one. So I love that. And then Hero's Cape, just a bigger HP modifier for the A-Spec. That does put Snorlax out of range of Dragapult, puts Rotom at 290, which is a really good number to avoid. Ogerpon at 310, which kind of helps against the Charizard matchup, so they can't double Dusknoir, kill the Ogerpon, and then swing into something else. And then last card, just 1 Mist Energy to help with the Dragapult matchup. You can typically just like block with a Mimikyu on the active and Mist Energy anything on the bench. It helped in my Lugia matchup a little bit too, because there was worlds where I could put this on something with a Handheld Fan on it, and then the Minchino, whatever the baby is, can clean up the tools off the board off of that one guy.
That's pretty creative. All right.
But
so I guess overall, how would you like the deck? How did it perform for you? I mean, obviously you won, but any changes you made?
It went fine today. I probably still would have been fine. I mean, I played 1 Lugia in Top Cut. I desperately wish I would have had those 4 cards. The 4 things I cut. The second Airy was probably relevant, but it's hard to tell. This Comfey won me 1 match against a player who he wasn't really slow playing. He was just, I think he was like seemed relatively new to the game a bit, so his actions were just relatively slow, and so we kind of got to the end of the match, and I was able to Flower Shower kind of close to time. So stuff like that. But and then Iono, I would typically I only put in there because I feel like I heard somebody else say they were maybe playing Snorlax, and I didn't want to lose that mirror.
Understandable. All right.
I would have been much better as a Giacomo. So,
you have any last shout outs? Anything you want to say?
No, I think that's it.
All right. Well, I appreciate your time, and congrats on your first place cup at TA Games. Thanks for watching, guys. Like and subscribe.